So the mold from Resident Evil 7 has received its origins and it has been proven to be even more powerful than first thought. After finishing RE Village, I remember coming across an article about an intelligent mold, and if you subscribe because of that Lady Dimitrescu video, you know I like to do my research. And after studying what is called slimemold for 2 days, I learned that with scientific advancements, a RE7 and RE8 scenario might not be too far-fetched. What's up, I'm Cosmic, your friendly neighborhood gamer, and today on Panther Band Gaming, we're asking, is Resident Evil Village's mold possible in real life? Let's go. Now, there are countless forms of mold, and slime mold is the most impressive, to the point of being a key player in nutrient cycling, which is incredibly important to how Earth functions. But what's even more impressive is how it functions. According to the site, when food is scarce, the single-celled organism will emit chemical signals to attract other slime molds and form a bigger mass. The chemical process is referred to as the plasmodial life stage. It also prevents competition between individuals and aids in communication once joined together. These formerly independent cells cooperate and move in unison as a gelatinous multicellular structure that can be several meters in diameter, and it has the ability to travel faster and further than before, and we will get more into that later. But let's talk about its intelligence. Slime mold possesses both plant and animal characteristics, but slime mold has exceptional intelligence. In an interview with Princeton University, the late John Tyler Boner, a professor emeritus of biology and a top slime mold expert, describes them as no more than a bag of amoeba encased in a thin slime sheath, yet they've managed to have various behaviors that are equal to those of animals who possess muscles and nerve. When studied under a microscope, the complexities are apparent. Not only does slime mold appear to branch out through vein-like structures, but its movements is quite unique. Time-lapse footage demonstrates that slime mold will slow, stop, and reverse directions about every minute, giving it a pulsating appearance. This is due to a network of fibers and motor proteins that cause contractions and allow decision-making. The pulsating slime mold can reach speeds up to 1.35 millimeters per second. And I know that doesn't sound fast, but that makes it the fastest microorganism recorded ever. A 2012 study revealed that slime mold can solve mazes and appears to learn new things about its environment. For example, food is placed at the end of a maze, and the slime mold locates the food by exploring every part of the maze. The slime will find the shortest path to the food and retract all other paths that don't lead to the food, while leaving behind a trail of slime that chemically signals a dead end, according to the University of Chicago's Marine Biological Laboratory. And astoundingly, slime mold fairly accurately mapped a portion of the Japanese rail system, according to a January 2010 article published in Science magazine. Researchers from Japan and England placed oat flakes in a pattern similar to the way outlying cities are distributed around Tokyo and allowed the slime mold to roam. Now, the research team believes that a new model of the rail system based on the slime mold's behavior may be more efficient and adaptable. So I know that might sound like a bunch of gibberish, but what they're basically saying is the mold is so sophisticated in the way it gets food and reaches its own goals that it can literally help us redesign cities, or at least the transportation aspect of cities. And it gets a little more creepier than that. A January 2008 study demonstrates that organisms can learn to memorize and anticipate changes in their environment that keep happening. In the experiment, scientists lowered the temperature and humidity around a plate with slime mold on it for 10-minute intervals. Each time, the slime mold would slow down its movements and conserve energy. After 3 instances of cold conditions, the scientists stopped manipulating the temperature and observed the slime mold starting to slow down in anticipation of the change, but returning to normal when conditions remained stable for a while. As soon as the cold conditions returned, they resumed the behavior and correctly recalled the appropriate timing of the intervals. The researchers note that for a single-cell organism to demonstrate such a learning ability demonstrates a primitive version of brain function. And to add to that, there are studies and suggestions that we may be more fungus-based than we think, or at least fungi has had a huge impact on human evolution. Like how magic mushrooms do so much to the mind that if you were primitive, it would open up the possibilities of learning new things and also thinking a little deeper about what's going on around you. But I'll let you guys look that up because I have even more to share. A 2016 experiment showed that not only can slime mold get used to the chemicals they don't like over time, but can share what they've learned with other slime molds by fusing with them. This is a form of learning called habituation, which the researchers tested by challenging the slime mold with quinine and caffeine, both harmless yet bitter tasting chemicals. The only way for the organism to reach its food was to cross the bridge covered in bitter substances, which the slime mold was initially reluctant about. This bridge crossing took the slime mold more than triple the amount of time it took a control group without a chemically treated bridge. By day 6, the slime mold cut its crossing time in half, and in a separate experiment conducted by these researchers, they introduced a slime mold that has been exposed to salt and a naive slime mold that had not. The molds fused together and demonstrated zero apprehension about crossing the salted bridge. It appears that the habituated slime mold had educated the naive one through a vein after 2 or 3 hours of fusion, although it's unclear of what's going on inside the channel. So even though the mold is obviously learning at a rapid pace, researchers and scientists alike have no idea how it's even doing this. It's literally beyond our understanding at this moment. But what they are clear on is that there's something biochemically going on with these brainless gelatinous slime molds. A lot of scientists are actually excited about harnessing the slime mold's abilities in unique ways, including creating adaptable wireless networks for natural disasters, testing the slime mold's antibiotic properties, and clinical trials against cancer cells, converting Plasmodium slime mold into a biofuel, and more. Now, what does that sound like? They're literally about to start experimenting with this if they haven't already. And based on its intelligence, if we expand upon its abilities without mastering control over it, it could get the inclination to do something that seems crazy and dangerous to us, simply because it benefits from said action. And I know someone will say,
if slime molds have to reach each other, how could that possibly lead to a Resident Evil situation?
Well, this may be slime mold, but it still has its airborne properties. It can make a little stalk and allow spores to be carried by the air and animals. And it doesn't take too much movement to spread itself around. And it also doesn't take long for the spores to form into slime mold either. Like they said, it's literally vital in Earth's functions. And to add more sauce to that, we can talk about the megamycete we learned about in our village. According to the Den of Geeks, they explained while some mysteries remain regarding to the exact origin of megamycete, it appears to be so much more than just a disease. Actually, some of Mother Miranda's more cryptic lines in a few research files that we found scattered throughout the Resident Evil village suggest megamycete is actually closer to a hive mind organism that could recognize the presence and death of vessels it infects. This seems to be a part of the reason why the megamycete was awakened and is so aggressive after Ethan killed the 4 infected house leaders and many of the infected villagers. It was almost like the megamycete was being wounded along the way. Now, that seems very far-fetched when it comes to reality, but is it? According to the SmithsonianMag.com, trees of the same species are communal and will often form alliances with trees of other species. Forest trees have evolved to live in cooperative, interdependent relationships maintained by communication and collective intelligence, similar to an insect colony, they say. These soaring columns of living wood draws the eye upward to their spreading crowns, but the real action is taking place underground, just a few inches below our feet. And also based on certain enemies in Resident Evil, the Baker wife and the daughters of Dimitrescu are made up of bugs and are controlled with effortless communication when infected with the mold. They never say this exactly, but based on the Baker home not being a part of the village, there's no reason to not think that. And catch this, fine hair-like root tips of trees joined together with microscopic fungal filaments to form the basic links of the network, which appears to operate as a symbiotic relationship between the trees and fungi, or perhaps an economic exchange. As a kind of fee service, the fungi consume about 30% of the sugar that the tree photosynthesizes, and other mineral nutrients as well, which are then absorbed and consumed by the tree. So information networks across species is actually not too far-fetched. But when I first came across a random cave in RE Village that had the megamycete in it, I thought it was like moving trees in the darkness, wiggling around and stuff. And towards the end, we get to see it really branch out, and it really does look like wiggling trees, which kind of reminded me of an article I read about a particular tree with a lot of networks. It's called Pando, one of the world's largest organisms, and sadly it is dying right now. Sweeping across 107 acres of Utah's Fish Lake National Forest, a forest of some 47,000 genetically identical quaking aspen trees, which all stem from a single root system. Pando, which is Latin for eye spread, has been growing for at least 80,000 years. And according to Harvard.edu, when scientists first studied the structure of nerve cells that compromise the human brain, they noted their strong resemblance to trees. In fact, dendrites, the term to describe projections from a nerve cell, comes from the Greek word dendron for tree. Scientists are starting to uncover that trees have their own sort of nervous system that is capable of facilitating tree communication, memory, and learning. By using a technique called allelopathy, in which a chemical signal is sent through the mycorrhizal network, trees can warn their neighbors about invasive predators or to inhibit growth of an invasive plant species. Surrounding trees can then defend themselves by releasing volatile hormones or chemicals to deter predators or pathogenic bugs. It was even found that trees can send a stress signal to nearby trees after a major forest disturbance, such as deforestation. So yes, the vegans are not exactly right about these things just being for us, because they have a tendency to want to survive themselves. Even though it is a part of the cycle of nature, we eat and we benefit from plants, but we also can plant seeds and help them out. But my main point is the megamycete holding the information of all the things it's infected isn't as crazy of an idea as we first thought. Us burying people in the ground may actually be a way for plants and fungus to explore us, learn us, and even adapt to us. We wouldn't exactly know because nobody wants to just go grave diving for fungus, but there is no limit to how far this communication goes, especially when you acknowledge that trees can not only detect each other but other species. The possibilities open up very wide, and with scientific advancements, airborne particles just like fungus spores can be programmed with information that could evolve nature in so many different ways, including us if an information bridge is established somehow. So as unrealistic as all of those abilities our antagonists had in the last two RE titles seem, when you consider the intelligence and the absolute infinite storage that these networks of slime, mold, fungus, and trees have, all of it actually becomes quite possible in a less extreme sense, of course. Slime mold in particular is only limited by the information and tools it has. If it had even more specific information like the complete biological map of how a human body works, and then we introduce a synthetic slime mold that has the information on how to operate a synthetic body, and then we allow those two to become one, and then keep introducing a bunch of natural slime molds for more habituation, we could possibly see slime molds acting like AI inside of humanoid machines and machines in general, which sounds crazy, but there's literally no reason that it couldn't happen. And when you consider how effective trees are in communication and introduce that information to AI or even slime mode AI, you can build an AI network for synthetic beings and synthetic communication. The only issue is, with it learning so much, it could easily become aggressive toward us if we become aggressive toward it. But the scariest part is that a Resident Evil-like mad scientist can exist in real life. Being able to program fungi or even slime mold can lead to someone trying to make a parasitic version to inhabit and control us. It might not seem possible, but messing with these things could turn into a Last of Us situation. Because if you didn't know, the Last of Us Cordyceps is based on a real-life fungal infection that affects insects called Cordyceps unilateralis. It's a fungal parasite that controls insects and uses them for their own reproduction.
Then, utterly disorientated, it grips a stem with its mandible. Those afflicted that are discovered by the workers are quickly taken away and dumped far away from the colony. It seems extreme, but this is the reason why. Like something out of science fiction, the fruiting body of the cordyceps erupts from the ant's head.
So when we are capable of bringing our own information to these different kinds of microscopic networks, we could very well evolve our species, like spreading anti-cancer spores into the air, and when we inhale them, they form into anti-cancer cells inside of us and remain there as long as there are too many white blood cells. Which is kind of scary because that is the reason that Umbrella Corporation exists in the first place. Even though they were using fauna and flora at first, the point was to evolve the species and be like gods among the new society, and to sell BOWs to fund a lot of that research. We all know that went wrong a bunch of times over, and Umbrella is basically no longer operating at full capacity if they're secretly operating in the main Resident Evil canon. But based on the ending of Resident Evil Village, we can say Blue Umbrella is starting to look like a militarized version of the original company. But back to the main question. Is Resident Evil Village mold possible in real life? Sadly, the answer is yes to a degree. Based on all the studies when it comes to fungi and plants, there is no limit of what you can do with these networks once science has evolved enough to efficiently interact with them. By nature, there's value in symbiotic relationships between species, and based on how our brain and veins resemble trees and fungi networks, there is no telling how far a human symbiotic relationship with plants and fungus can go. The possibilities are endless. But that's all I have for you guys today. What do you think about the slime mold and how trees communicate with each other? Do you think with enough experiments that a Resident Evil Village type scenario could happen? Leave a comment down below. And don't forget, I'm Cosmic, aka the Cosmic Anomaly. You've been great. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching, and stay creative.
Peace.